Welcome to the Vigor Life Podcast, a source of inspiration, lessons, stories, skill sets, mindsets, and strategies to invigorate and expand all areas of your life. Let's go. Yo, what's going on? Coach Luka back here with the Vigor Life Podcast. We've had a little bit of a break, partially, actually kind of completely because of me having a lot of stuff going on. 4 seminars in 4 weeks. So we had 3 at Vigor, the Vigor Around Fitness and Business Summit, which I will do a separate podcast on insights on that one. And then I flew out to Slovenia this past week to do a Bioforce conditioning coach course with Joel Jameson. We brought him out to our gym over there, to the Vigor gym in Slovenia. So it's been, you could say, a little bit spicy. And I really work on keeping this at once a week. And I'm sure in the coming year that we're going to step it up to twice a week with Gene as I free myself up a little bit more and create a better schedule. But, it's been crazy. It's been hard to fit in. But we're back. And here's the thing is, today we're going to talk about pattern interrupts in your life to get you to a place that you want to go, results. So whatever that may be in whichever area of your life. And, why I wanted to bring this up was because essentially, literally for the last 4 weeks, I've had pattern interrupts, right? I mean, from the events, but it was a huge, just talking to people at the Vigor Around Fitness and Business Summit, and it was so many people were coming up and saying like, man, this is one of the best events I've ever been to. But it's an interrupt in their world, in their life, to kind of pre-frame things in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, you're going from the hustle and bustle of building your gym business or whatever business it may be or whatever you may be doing, and then you come into this environment with some of the, the top coaches in the industry presenting, speaking on, different methods and strategies and principles of helping you move your life and your business forward. And you get to talk to them in the hallways and you get to talk to like-minded individuals. And, some of I would say if you've had some scarcity and anxiety and all these other things, you kind of get rid of that and see a better future and you see a vision for where you're going. And it's a pattern interrupt, right? In your daily life, where, you may not be moving in the direction that you want. And it's like, boom, you punch right through it. So what I wanted to do today was talk about pattern interrupts that you can create both on a daily basis and some that are a little bit bigger. So think of breaking them down into shorter or longer pattern interrupts. And I mean, there's a lot of this stuff, right? There's a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of drills that you can do, period, that can kind of shift your mindset and shift the frame of how you're thinking and where you're thinking. And I mean, it can do wonders. It legitimately can, because remember, like the muscle in between our 2 ears is it can be our biggest ally, our biggest enemy, and it's usually the one that tends to steer us the wrong way based on the stories that we tell ourselves, or if we're listening to naysayers and society and all this other shit. So the kicker is, like, how do we pattern interrupt like the thoughts and the patterns that we have and the stories that we have in our head and go into positive direction? And once you know how to do that and you train that, because remember, everything is, trained or untrained, right? You're gonna fall to the lowest level of your training, and it goes the same thing for your brain and your mindset, right? So when you can start shifting those things, it can make a world of difference. And I can absolutely, kind of confirm that that's worked for me, because as you guys may have known, I was a big knucklehead, and I kind of kept pattern interrupting myself into a different future. So with that said, I'm gonna kind of just go down the list and talk about a couple of things that have really worked well for me. Some of them are just rituals that I already do. Because believe it or not, one of the best times to pattern interrupt yourself is in the morning. And we've talked about morning rituals, but it doesn't mean that, depending on your life, sometimes, in the morning you just wake up, you didn't have a great night's sleep, and you might just be, thrown off, or maybe there's a lot going on in your life. And the first thing that happens is you wake up and you get stressed and anxious. So the question is, like, how can you pattern interrupt that and not make it, hey, go to a float tank early in the morning? Yeah, that's probably not going to happen for majority of people, right? But what are some things that you can do? What are some things that I do and coach people to do? Well, one of the things I do first is, like, I do walk and podcast. And think of it this way: if I wake up in the morning, I'm stressed out, and I accidentally, and I say accidentally because I'm really good about not checking email until noon, but I accidentally, open up the email just because I have a thought like, shit, I'm expecting this, and I look at it and it freaks me out and the spiral begins. A lot of times, like I said, like before anything happens, I'm just like, boom, I pack shit up, take my phone, put on, depending on what the weather's like, and I'll go, even if it's raining now, like I'll take an umbrella and I'm out the door, and I walk the lake. Now, if you don't have the lake nearby, who cares? Just what is a path or a route that you can take, that takes you anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. And that's why, getting up a little bit earlier to do stuff like that can make a world of difference. So now, you're doing two things. You're moving around, and even just walking makes a difference. Even walking changes, I would say, the chemicals in your brain because you start being active. But then number two, I'm going to feed myself something that's going to be inspirational, something positive, something that's going to make me look into a better day, into a better future. And whether that's a podcast or whether that's an audiobook or whether I go to YouTube and, listen to somebody's speech or something that's going to like fire me up. That is a pattern interrupt into your world, because guess what? You're going to come back. First of all, whatever the stuff you were thinking about is most likely not going to be what you're going to be thinking about, because you just, I would say filled your brain with positive things, and you went on for a walk, which kind of puts you in a different space. So that's one of the pattern interrupts. My second pattern interrupt is the mobility work that I do in the morning. Now, sometimes, mobility work is great. And like any type of movement, engaging in any type of, like I said, it doesn't even need to be like strenuous exercise, although that helps too. But any type of movement is going to get you out of, I would say, being focused on something negative, overly negative, right? It's just the way that our brains work. We start thinking about the process of what we're doing, which is why I love the mobility and flow stuff in the morning, because it just gets me out of that place, right? And also, like a swift, like most people don't use this enough. In Warrior, we call it shift moves, right? So on a shift move is, feel free to steal this. It's not like it was created, nobody did it before, but a shift move is three different things. One is 5 deep breaths, right? So you just breathe in through nose, fully exhale through mouth 5 times. And, we've talked about breathing and how powerful that can be. After you do that, you declare. So you declare how you're feeling. So, and you yell that shit out. So you might be like, fucking tired, or I'm focused, or I'm angry, or whatever it may be. You get that out, and then you do 5 of something: squat jumps, push-ups. Burpees are great just because it's a full body movement and there's a little more to do. And call that a shift move. And legitimately, like those are, 3 things that help you. One, you got your breathing that calms you down. You got your declaration, so you get stuff out, and then you do some physical activity that's really short but intense. That I would say starts aligning norepinephrine and dopamine and puts you in a better place. And the reality is, like, this stuff works. Right now, you may be, in a crazy spiral of anxiety and stress, and maybe that won't get you out. But for a lot of things throughout the day, that can get you, it can get you sharp and it can get you going. Just like, I wish that I had a cold plunge pool in my house, because I would just I'd get up in the morning, I'd jump straight into that motherfucker, and trust me, you'd come out of that going like, okay, I'm ready to go. Pattern interrupt. But using stuff like that, like as tools, like I said, from the walks and to listen to podcasts to the 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes of flow, to the bed of nails. So I love the bed of nails. I've been doing that every morning now. Like I almost get out of bed and just lie straight down on it and start meditating, which brings me to the next one, which is meditation. Meditation is a great pattern interrupt. Now, I will say this, like sometimes when you're in a spiral, it's hard to meditate, because just the thought of it is like, I don't know, right? So you got to do something before that, like go for a walk, do a shift move, do a 5-10 minute workout. And by the way, like I love the really, really short workouts, because it's like almost, it's not even a workout, 5 minutes, squats, push-ups. Like you can do that anywhere, right? Just body weight stuff, band pull-aparts, push-ups, right? Just really, really basic stuff, get the blood flowing, gets you recentered. And yeah, of course, if you're at work, you might not be able to pull that off, but you can absolutely do shift moves. But meditation is fantastic. It's an incredible reset, right? It's an incredible reset and pattern interrupt. But you got to be able to use it, I would say, in the right situation. So for me, lunchtime is a great time to do a meditation, because it's almost like this reset button in the day. And right now, I'm just using mostly the Calm app or binaural beats, and I just focus on my breathing. So I change stuff a lot. Like I've done the mantras, I've done Headspace, I've done 10% Happier. I've done a lot of different, I would say, pre-recorded meditation stuff that's been good. I like changing it up, but right now I'm really focusing on just breathing, because honestly, it's something that I need to work on anyways. And I usually listen to binaural beats, which has been pretty cool. But I use that as a pattern interrupt in the day, because when you're going 100 miles an hour, you got all these things that you want to think about and you have to do, essentially what you want to do is kind of create space, right? And we've talked about meditation, how powerful it is. And at this point in time, it's not, woo-woo anymore, because there's so much science supporting and backing up all the great things that it does for our brain, especially helps us be centered and be focused on stuff. But, like I said, the analogy I think that Garrett used years ago, to me, that's probably the best one, is that, business is going to be crazy. Life is going to be crazy whether you like it or not a lot of times. And it's kind of like the hurricane, right? You don't want to be in the hurricane making decisions. You don't want to be, you make a way different decision when you're angry, stressed out, jealous, anxious, than you do if you're in a mindset of power, abundance, success, love, giving, right? You make completely different decisions in those two spaces. So why not shift your emotion? Why not shift, the way that you're thinking, and then make decisions out of that place? And so I use this, I would say the meditation at lunchtime to almost kind of give myself a better shot at the day, because it's going to wear me out. Like if I start working out in the morning, and I'm doing work and I'm using my mental energy a lot, and I have meetings, I have phone calls, I have business coaching calls. I got a lot of stuff that can wear me out and drain me. So how do I, reset myself? And, meditation is one of them. If I can combine it with environments, which I'll talk about in a little bit, like going to the lake, even better, right? I change the environment. I get into this place that calms me down, where I start, like I said, meditating, create the reset button. I essentially go into the eye of the storm, right? Instead of being inside of the tornado, being thrown around, making choices out of a place that's not that great, I go into the eye of the storm and I separate myself from the problem and give myself space, so that when I'm done, I'm like, woosah, okay, cool. Let me make choices with clarity now. Like it's almost a restart of the day. Now, what I've started doing, this is something that I've only done for the last 3 weeks, but really, really powerful. And by the way, everything by Debbie Ford is awesome. So if you reading all the books by Debbie Ford is fantastic. But asking yourself powerful questions. Obviously, you guys have heard, the quality of your life comes down to the quality of the questions you ask yourself, which is a Tony Robbins quote. And I definitely believe that, because questions can interrupt the process that's going on in your day in your head. So what I've coupled is doing meditation and then coming out of meditation and asking myself these 10 questions. And these questions are guides, right? Am I adding to my light? Let's just call it my inner light, right? Or am I dimming my light? Because remember, your inner light is your power. Okay, are you everything that you can be? Are you expressing your gifts? Are you expressing your talent, your effort, your love, your generosity in its full light? Or are you dimming it? Now, you can dim your light for a lot of reasons, right? Because you're exhausted and you're not eating the way, the best way to support your goals and to support your energy. You're not, exercising and moving. You're not feeding your mind with the right things. There's a lot of things that can dim that light. And there's a lot of things that can obviously make that light shine stronger. But the questions have been fucking so powerful, because they reset me. I go hey, the stuff that I'm doing today, is it really taking me in the right direction? So I'm just gonna spit out these 10 questions. And man, write these down, because these are really, really, really powerful questions. And they shift you from a autopilot, because remember, you're on autopilot. A lot of our life is on autopilot based, on habits that we're ingrained. So these questions can really kick you out of all autopilot because now you're in your prefrontal cortex, right? You're in your conscious brain and you're really thinking about what's best and what's not, where a lot of times you're not in that area because you're just patterned, right? It's just neurons that fire the wire together, just like emotional, right? Emotional patterns and habits that happen that you don't even know about, right? So this is a fantastic way to pattern interrupt yourself throughout the day, and I carry these with me. But so question number 1 is, will this choice propel me toward an inspiring future, or will it keep me stuck in the past? So think about that. Whatever you were doing that day or you're about to do, and you ask yourself that question: will this choice propel me forward to an inspiring future, or will it keep me stuck in the past? Number 2 is, will this choice bring me long-term fulfillment, or will it bring me short-term gratification? I think that's such a powerful one because a lot of people do very, very short-term stuff. I want stuff now, but yeah, long-term, it's probably not going to be great. And when it comes to food, let's be real, that's the number one thing, right? Oh shit, look at that. Looks great. Not going to take me to my goals, but short-term gratification sounds good. Right? So number 2, will the choice bring me long-term fulfillment, or will it bring me short-term gratification? Number 3 is, am I standing in my power, or am I trying to please somebody else, or another one? Right? And remember, how many times do we do stuff with power because of where we want to go, or do we do it because we want somebody to like us, or to be like, oh, I don't want to be separated from the tribe, so I'm going to make this choice that really isn't the best for me. It's not really what I really want to do, but I'll do it anyways just because of that. And we know how much social disconnect can be a very painful, threatening thing to us. So number 3 is, am I standing in my power, or am I trying to please another? Number 4 is, am I looking for what's right, or am I looking for what's wrong? We talked about this in coaching, shining the light on positive, finding ways to congratulate people. And this both goes for yourself and for other people, right? And number 4 is, am I looking for what's right, or am I looking for what's wrong? So, if you look at what's right, you're going to do more of it, right? Whatever you focus on grows. We know this. Number 5 is, will this choice add to my life force, or will rob me of my energy, right? So once again, you can do strenuous activity and it'll add to your energy, right? Like a workout, or whether it's, quick mobility, this or that, or maybe it's going, after a long day, if you go do charity work, it's going to add to your life force, right? But you might meet with somebody that's just draining as fuck and is going to take away from it, right? So will this choice add to my life force, or will rob me of my energy? Very, very important question. This is one that always sticks out at me because sometimes I've got way better at it, but sometimes I'm still making decisions of I gotta, I'm making too many yeses trying to help people with that. Sometimes that just drains me. Next one is, will I use this situation as a catalyst to grow and evolve, or will I use it to beat myself up? Another great question that, because look, every day you're going to have struggle. I mean, if you're a business owner, then shit, every day has got something coming up that is going to be an obstacle. It's going to be a wall, a struggle, something that's going to hold you back. But the thing is, you can use that as a catalyst, right, as a stepping stone if you learn that lesson from it. And looking at it from that direction, we've talked about positive focus before, right? When you have a negative thing that happens, how do you extract a lesson? Why is that positive? And then how do you apply that lesson to your life? How do you create an action step associated with it? So will I use the situation as a catalyst to grow and evolve, or will I use it to beat myself up? And like I said, self-love is so important. And I think it's, something that everybody has to do more of, period, because it's so easy to beat ourselves up. And, this is a perfect example of how we're wired so negatively, right? That I remember Mark Fisher came, we did an in-staff and we did a seminar here at Vigor with Mark, and we were doing these little groups, and he said, hey, what's something great you guys are doing in your business, in your gym? And every group started talking about what they were doing great. And within less than 60 seconds, it was we're doing this great. But we could improve that. And it literally went from, the question was what are you doing awesome? And within less than a minute, everybody was talking about how they can do it better and finding flaws. And literally the question was, what are you doing great? Right? So it's we always kind of revert back to this negativity, right? So that's why it's so important to basically shine a light. And that's why I love the 3 wins, right? What are 3 things that you did great today? You know, what are your 3 wins for today, right? Positive focus. Hey, how is that positive? The question, you know, even when shitty stuff happens, like, how is that positive, right? But that question, I'm going to repeat it so that you guys can write these down. But like, will I use this situation as a catalyst to grow and evolve, or will I use it to beat myself up? The next question is, does this choice empower me or does it disempower me, right? So are you making decisions that are disempowering you, or does it make, and you know, a lot of times, like, it's straight up like a feeling, right? I mean, shit, when you make a choice, you know, like, is that empowering you? You know, when you say, yes, I'm going to do this, you know, I'm going to sign up for this coaching, or I'm going to go do this work, or I'm going to take on this, right? Sometimes it can scare you, but it can be empowering, right? Or it can be disempowering. The next one is this an act of self-love, or is it an act of self-sabotage? You know, doing things like, once again, you know, when I make a choice, I know for me, I'm going to speak from a personal standpoint. Whenever I take time for myself, and whether it's like, you know, going to get a massage, going to the float tank, going to Banya, you know, going on a trip that's like got nothing to do with business and learning, you know, it's just kind of like just to give myself some time and have a fun and adventure and experiences and stuff like that. You know, self-love. If it, you know, self-sabotage is, like I said, I'll just use myself as an example here, might be some more work, right? I already got, you know, 12-hour day, 14-hour day. And it's like, but there's always fucking more to do, so I might just jump back in. So that's self-sabotage. Like, at least in my situation it is, because once again, it's not like I'm on some lazy shit and not doing stuff. So that's a pattern, right? But once again, if I ask myself this, guess what? I have to really think about it and go like, you know what, man, like that is a little bit of self-sabotage. I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to go watch a movie. I'm going to go have a you know, dinner with my friends, whatever, right? And the 9th one is this an act of faith or is it an act of fear? I love this one because remember, like, faith, you know, faith is basically believing in something we can't see. It doesn't have to necessarily be a religious thing, but at the same time, right? It's like faith. You know, when you do something that you can't, like, you know, Vigor Ground, like this, the building that we're in, the Vigor Life building, you know, that was faith. You know, when I wrote that up on the board, it's like seeing something, believing in something that's not there, that's not even close to it, right? And you know, that the act of, I would say, even going into every decision that I made for this building was an act of faith, right? Before it ever happened. You know, an act of fear is, oh man, I don't know, like you know, and you know, it's kind of like the worst case scenario. But don't get me wrong, right? Like, you can still prepare for the worst case scenario, but have faith and basically act in faith rather than fear. And it's like what I said before, that you know, a lot of people throughout the day, if you're stressed out and anxious and in scarcity, like, you're going to make decisions based out of fear, right? And when you do that, I doubt that those fearful decisions lead you to a place of abundance and the vision that you want to create. Now, fear has its place. You know, once again, nothing is always black or white, right? Fear has its place where, you know, a great book is The Gift of Fear, where, you know, we have that for protection, you know, so that we can kind of find out where threat is and avoid it. But the reality is that in this day and age, we're like way too wired for it, and fear controls way too much of our lives, and we don't do the things that we truly want to do, you know, deep in our hearts, or like, you know, listening to our voice. So that's the 9th question. Is this an act of faith or is it an act of fear? And the 10th one is, am I choosing from my divinity or am I choosing from my humanity? Right? So from that place, if you're, you know, let's touch on this and let's call it universal intelligence, right? And not digging too deep into what you believe in, because whether it's the universe or Buddha or God or whatever it may be, but if you believe that there is something bigger, right, you can either choose from that divinity or you can choose from your humanity and believe that, like, you can't accomplish these incredible things. And so that's really the way that I see that question, and ask myself, like, how far am I reaching? You know, what's possible if I believe that I'm divine? Then why am I holding myself back? You know, and choosing from humanity, right? So think of it so those are the 10 questions. And man, I took a little bit to cover that, but it's important, right? I carry these around, and that is, you can pull them out whenever. To be honest with you, I say have them somewhere that you can get reminded of them often. I have basically a journal that I keep them in because it's the journal that I use every day. I have a reminder in my phone so that I couple it with my meditation. Been a game changer. And the crazy thing about it is, like, you'll catch yourself of how many times, you're thinking one way and it's completely unconscious and based on fear versus on, the way that I would just say, like, based on your desires and wants and dreams, right? So those two, that was kind of like a longer version of a pattern interrupt right there. But another one that's short is like games and fun. We need to do way more of that. And, the thing is that when we play games, when we have fun, you forget about everything, like absolutely everything. I think I talked about this on a podcast after we came back from Brazil. And, there was a ton of stuff going on, but, like, man, we were doing jiu-jitsu, and then we were playing futsal and, like, volleyball and, doing boxing and all types of different things. And when you're doing these things, like, you don't think about anything. It just interrupts everything. And the cool thing about, fun and games and adventure is that it gets you to smile, right? It gets you to be a kid. And there's a lot of, the why is developmental, why do we love doing movement patterns like rolling on the ground and crawling and games and stuff like that? Because it gets people connected to how they were as a kid. And those are all great learning tools, but they're also great interrupts or resets or, whatever you want to call them. Like, even in training, right, we talk about the reset in R7, the stuff that we do. But, this is just a reset in your day. So, can you go, I mean, like right down the street on 3rd, there's a pinball place. It's like the old school game place. It's got Tetris, it's got Pac-Man, it's got, pinball machines and stuff like that. And, the other day I dropped in for like 20 minutes. I was having a blast, man. It was, takes you back to when you were younger. And I had a big ass smile on my face. Completely changed my day. Like, I was stressed out, went in there and did that because, like, it's walking distance now. And it was just dope. The other day when Joe had a seminar here at our gym here in Seattle, and we ended up going laser tag afterwards. Everybody had a blast. At the beginning it was like, I don't know if I want to do that. Man, after laser tag, everybody had a blast. Everybody was laughing, high-fiving, sweating out of their mind because you get serious about it. But that's the point, though, right? How can you create these pattern interrupts in your day or in your week that put you into a better place? Go into nature. Now, whether that's a hike or whether that's just like you live close enough to something that you can be, you can be in nature, whether that's by a river, by a lake, a hike, walk through the woods, whatever that may be, man, that will do wonders for you. And reconnecting with nature is in itself kind of meditative, right? But that has been a great interrupt, and a majority of people that end up doing that will tell you how, like, completely relaxed them. So those are somewhat shorter, and I would say that adding here, I talk about environment so much. I talk about environment a ton, and remember, environment is everything that you can you hear, you see, you feel, you touch, you smell, and how can you create environments that create a pattern interrupt? And maybe sometimes that's like going to a really, really, like nice hotel to work, or a really nice coffee shop, or a different area, or maybe to a spot that's got beautiful views that you don't usually go to. And it puts you in a place of abundance because you're around these nice things and in a different environment. And that can make a world of difference. Same thing is like where if I'm doing a complete, I don't know if you follow me on IG, but man, the other day I woke up and I'm like, that's it. I'm like throwing 60% of my clothes out, completely cleaning up my, my apartment, scenting it up, like getting all these bookshelves in different places, building an office to spec here inside of the gym, so that it's this environment that just makes me feel good and makes me think in a positive direction, and makes me think bigger and makes me feel uncluttered. And I'm never gonna be like completely minimalist, but it certainly helps. And I just found that, like, when I would come home, I'm like, man, it's just too much clutter. Once again, how can you change your environment? The smells, the scents, the sounds, the sights, on a daily basis or maybe on a weekly basis. And then we have like our bigger pattern interrupts. And, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I travel, and I did a whole podcast on why I travel for seminars and learning. But it's the pattern interrupt of how my life is going, and then being around these people that have inspired me in some way or another. And like I said, that punches kind of like through the reality and makes you think different. I was just flying back from Slovenia, and I only flew out I was there for 4.5 full days because the rest of the time I was on flight. So a quick one, but I got to play a basketball game with my friends and old teammates, with a younger team. Got to hang out with Joel and Ariel a ton. We were talking about ideas and possibilities and all these different things. I got to hang out with my family, but it put me in a place where it started shifting my thoughts. And on the way back on a plane, I brought like 6 or 7 pages of notes. I mean, on everything from redoing the new website to content strategy stuff to the podcast I'm going to shoot to like some business structures and frameworks. I mean, you name it, right? Probably more so than I have in a long time. So that, that's a pattern interrupt. It's like, it's not like just go to the seminar so you can gain information, right? I mean, remember, it's information, integration, transformation, right? That's kind of like the route you want to go. And a lot of times going to, places to learn is more about interrupting like what you're already doing that's the same and kicking yourself out of it. And then you have like deeper experiences. Like, I mean, Warrior was the biggest pattern interrupt I would say definitely in my life in the last decade, right? But when I went to Warrior Week, because it was intense, it was completely different, and it punched a hole in my reality. And obviously, it was an interrupt too, as far as the investment that I put into it, because I would say the bigger the problem, the bigger the interrupt has to be to change it. And if you're in that place, I'd have you consider like getting coaching or going into something like Warrior Week, or there's a lot of great coaches and great possibilities. Like, man, if your business is suffering and, you've been trying to do like little things here and there and whatnot, man, maybe you need to pattern interrupt and invest in yourself and go into a different environment. Like, so that environment is like being around people that are pushing like you're pushing, a coach that's been there, done that, right? Still doing it. So think about those things, right? Like the bigger that you want to make it, like the bigger the interrupt. And that's why travel is another great interrupt. Like going to, like I love traveling the world, but I love going to places that are so different, from Africa to Asia to Russia to, all these different places that make you kind of like reflect, right? And be grateful for everything that you have and like learn things about new cultures and people and understand better, right? Those are all because it takes you away completely from your comfort zone and your environment and shifts your perspective. So, another reason why to constantly, like I said, go and learn somewhere else and go and travel and immerse yourself, and when I say immerse yourself, doing more things like, I would even say like once you're successful, doing equivalents of internships, even if they're 3 days long, 4 days long, a week long, and just immersion into another world that's different than yours, where you're taking a lot out of it. Also, immersion charity work, going and diving deep into organizations where you can help out and just seeing the other side, because it'll give you a completely different perspective and like kick you out of your current habits and make you see, how you can do more. I mean, going to Necker Island, hanging out with Richard Branson was that for me. Was like I started like going like, holy shit, I need to do more. I can do bigger things. And since then, all my meetings and all the direction of what we're gonna do with Vigor Giver, which is kind of the charity portion of Vigor Ground, is kind of creating a 10x vision for that. So, you kind of want to create pattern interrupts in your day. And then you want to kind of create pattern interrupts in your week and month. So just like, think of it this way. I just had our foundational business coaching call with the Vigor Ground Fitness Business Mentorship Group. And it was, we're talking about the daily performance habits, to put yourself into power, to be able to perform at your highest level in all areas of your life. And then we talked about, setting like the 90-day goals / calling it the 12-week year. And there's a book out there that talks about the 12-week year, like making a push. And then you break down and reverse engineer all of that stuff, right? You reverse engineer what you want to hit in 30 days, so every month. And then what do you need to do on a weekly basis to hit that? And then what should you do daily, right? And Precision Nutrition talks about this, right? You have an outcome, you have a goal that you want to hit, right? And then that goal consists of a bunch of skill sets that you need to learn and master to get there. And basically those skill sets are made up of daily practices that you need to do. So think of it from a perspective of what are the pattern interrupts that you need to insert into your life to get you out of a place of, stress, anxiety, scarcity, being tired, right? Being drained into abundance, prosperity, love, giving, possibility, prosperity, and friendship, love, like all these different things. So what can you do on a daily basis to do that? What can you do on a weekly basis to do that? And then what can you do on a monthly or quarterly basis to do that? So for me daily, some of the habits that I just mentioned that are shorter, I use them almost like a toolbox, right? Now, some things are set in stone. I do them almost every day or every day. Some of them it's like, okay, this is the best tool for the job. Some of them on a weekly basis, so I don't expect people to hike every week or, maybe go to laser tag or do this, that, or the other thing, right? But on a weekly basis, I go to Banya. If the weather is good, I try to go on a hike and on a walk. I try to go to a new restaurant with my friends, like so on and so forth, right? But on a monthly basis, taking 3-4 day trips, or even like a day long trip, right? I don't know where you're at in your life and business, but something, because it's easy to go like, well, I can't do that right now. But what can you do, right? What can you do? Can you take a half a day over the weekend for yourself and take a ferry down an island or go do something different that's completely out of the comfort zone? And then every quarter, can you take a trip? Can you immerse yourself in some charity work? These are the questions for you more so than my answers. But the reality is that like if you are not where you want to be, it means that the things that you're doing on a daily and weekly basis are leading you into a direction that you don't want to go, right? So what you want to do is obviously pattern interrupt that to go into the right direction. Now, the 10 questions are very, very powerful because why? Like sometimes we have these underlying commitments. And what I mean by that is this, right? I have people always like tell me stuff. I really want to do X, Y, Z, right? And then all their actions don't align with that. So even though they're saying that underlyingly, subconsciously, it's whether it's self-worth or something else, fear, or I would say anxiety or stress or fear of persecution leads them into another direction. And these questions are a great way to like interrupt that and consciously like make you go like, okay, like what do I really want? And then make decisions based on that. So hopefully you can see that like not only can you use this in your own life, but you can, if you're a coach, you can use this to coach people to have tools to get them out of that, right? There's a lot of different, we could dive really, really deep on how you can use this with coaching clients, both in the, in a fitness and nutrition field, as well as in the field of high performance business coaching, or anything else, to be honest with you. Because like at the end of the day, I believe environments trigger behaviors, and it's such a big reason why, vigor, I would say the vigor life building and everything that's happening around it now that we're working on is building this environment that triggers positive behaviors, that surrounds people with, I would say positive people pushing towards, their best selves. And the food is in that alignment. The recovery is in that alignment. There, every single part of it is bumping people out of that negative into the positive. And I would have you consider asking yourself and assessing your environments, right? What is coming into your environment from the things that you hear daily, the people that you're around, everything from the places that you go, the things that you read, like what do you listen to, right? All of that stuff, because you got to start shifting those puzzle pieces around so they align with your deepest desires and your deepest goals and wants, right? Versus maybe some underlying ones that aren't taking you where you want to go. With that said, man, I didn't even sip on my bang. That's crazy. But with that said, look, we'll be back. We got so much stuff that I want to cover, everything from the Big Round Fitness and Business Summit, my insights, and we got a whole nutritional, I would say, podcast coming up that's going to go deep and answering some of your questions and much, much, much more. But as always, I love and appreciate a review, guys. Like, when we get reviews, what ends up happening is more people see and hear the podcast. And, if this shifts something for someone, man, even better. So like, I really appreciate when you do that. Go into iTunes, review it 5 stars, leave a comment if you love it. And also, man, I just blanked on what I was going to say, damn it. That means I'm running out of juice right now and I need to get a pattern interrupt. Oh, take action on something. Like if you heard something right now, like, look, just write out one thing and then just do it, right? There's always, this framework of having a revelation, and then what does it mean to you, right? And then what are you going to do? What is the action that you're going to take associated with what you just learned? That is how you exponentially grow, right? That's how you grow constantly, is like you learn something and you don't just leave it there. Like you write out what you're going to do, what's the action you're going to take, and then take it as soon as possible, no matter how small, no matter how big. Make a decision right now and do it. And that's what's going to continue to propel you forward. With that said, got to be out. Love you, appreciate you, and I'm out.